little bit, doing a solo back here in the engineering chair, which I ain't done in a while. So we might have a little bit of challenges going on the old enchilada. Uh, Here as I try and type in the name and get us lit up on Facebook, so we'll try and do that as we're going on. We're trying to type all this in. Okay, let me get the this going, and we'll see if we can light her up. We'll try this.
The Toyota San Bernardino Recording Studio presents IE Newswire Daily with Roy Blecker. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Oh, there you go with the music, and we'll see if it all works as I'm sitting by the back behind the engineering desk doing a solo for today. So yeah, you'll get 100% of Roy, me running the dials. We'll see if we can muck this up some more up and down the line of doing that and seeing what's going on with the whole enchiladas. I got all this stuff set up, and hopefully we are cooking on Facebook Live. I'm checking that out right now. Trump impeachment is up on the agenda for today a lot. We got some Moreno Valley news, some Inland Empire news, and all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah, it does look like I'm lit up on there, so that's a cool thing. El Presidente and the impeachment and the whole enchilada of going on with that. It strikes me as very funny that a good old Nancy Pelosi and all that. Now we're making excuses on why we can't send that up to the articles of impeachment up to the Senate because they know it's going nowhere. And you know what? Politicians are very good at reading the polls. They go back and forth on this stuff all the time, and we're doing that, and they can see, as we've talked about a few times, especially in the swing states, the states that are going to matter: Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Ohio. A lot of those states that are absolutely critical, and where the election's going to turn, even Florida, North Carolina. A lot of these states can pop either way. They are trending Trump's way. Gallup poll, the latest Gallup poll, I think, is up 6 points since this all started in Trump's favor. That's nationally. This thing is not playing well with the American people. They don't understand why there's an impeachment. They don't see an impeachable offense because there is none. What they are seeing is the corruption of not only of our politicians, but of our government operations and especially law enforcement investigative agencies that have been hosing us under the workbench for many years. And it brings back the old quote that's attributed to Benjamin Franklin: those who would trade liberty for security deserve neither. And I say that, because it really is true. We've traded too many times as this stuff, or we've given up our freedoms or acquiesced to Homeland Security searches at the airport. Oh, yeah, it's all right if they monitor this, that, and the other. Well, you can see now the danger in that. And that's why the safeguards were put in the Constitution and checks and balances, which have been severely not followed in this case, and really even more dangerously, almost a coup d'etat, I believe, of our political system. Because when our FBI, whether it starts the military or anybody else, if this stuff is allowed to proliferate and run amok out of control, like Comey says. Well, uh, heck, we were doing even worse stuff than this, and what we got flagged for in the IG report. Uh, I mean, really, this is not news breaking, up on the top headlines, back and forth on the stuff every day. Because I mean, this stuff should be 100% front. That is the one quote that I'm really baffled why is not getting more attention than it is. I mean, if we were really in an honest society, and we were really our politicians were really looking out for our interests and enforcing the law, or making sure we're protected from people like James Comey and Strunk and Page and whomever the rogue agents were on there, going all after us. That's where the investigations are. I'm amazed at the point that nobody is uh, is up in arms about this whole enchilada, because I mean, what the heck else? I mean, so they, like I've said, so the FBI can come and investigate you. Just as they decide, well, we don't like you, we're just going to turn our powers up. We don't care. We don't subpoenas, Miranda rights, nothing else. Your constitutional rights. We'll just use all the powers that we have of the federal government, state government, local governments, or whatever, to bury you. I'm sure, maybe if you don't, that's what I say, even if you don't like Trump, even if you hate his guts, 100% dislike him, think he's the worst thing that ever happened since, Satan himself, that has nothing to do with what's been going on here. But we got a little video to show you a little bit on, and I'll see if I can cue this up and see if I can figure that part out. And we'll see if we can see what. And this is one guy I don't agree with a lot, Lindsey Graham, but he was on Sean Hannity's show talking about the election part, and I agree. I agree with him. This is probably going to do more to get Trump reelected than anything, than all the good things. The economy being up, the new NAFTA trade agreement that was just announced today after the House agreed to with Pelosi. They just agreed to that right after they impeach him. He's such a bad guy. They're doing this. Even the health care, the individual mandate is being struck down in district court. So we're going to see if the Supreme Court does on that. A lot of good things going on, but we'll see. This is Lindsey Graham on Fox News with Sean Hannity. We'll see if we can make her play.
Lindsey Graham. Senator, how are you?
I am great. That was pretty well done. Thank you.
All right. Well, I got a good grade from my class from Senator Graham.
Yes, you did.
None of this is even upsetting in the least to me, because this is who they are. This defines them. This represents everything they have done for 3 years. Can you name one accomplishment besides this? If they want to consider this an accomplishment, and act like they're not high-fiving. Bull. That's more bullshit, too. But anyway.
Right. Well, so here's the question. Why are they doing this? The reason they're doing it is Nancy Pelosi would lose her job if they did not move toward impeachment. What happened between March and now? In March, we need to be thoughtful and bipartisan. Impeachment should be a grave decision made in a bipartisan manner. What happened? The mob took over the House. The mob is running the Democratic Party, and if she did not move to impeach this president, she would not be Speaker. So she picked her job over what's good for the country, and I hope at the end of the day it costs the Democrats the House, and it's going to do a lot to reelect the president. Their goal to destroy the president is actually going to blow up in their face. They're going to make it more likely that he gets 4 more years. And can you imagine what the judiciary would look like with 4 more years of Donald Trump?
Yeah, because he's appointed a lot of judges. I got to give Mitch McConnell. That has been one of the great accomplishments,
awesome. Yes.
Unsung accomplishments of him. So we had one fact witness. Every other witness was a hearsay witness or an opinion witness or an ivory tower professor witness that wants to impeach the president because he once used the words fake and news in a tweet. So my question to you is, okay, it goes to the Senate. Mitch McConnell's been very clear. You've been very clear. Some have asked me on radio, TV, they write me, what about Mitt Romney? What about Susan Collins of Maine, which I think she needs the president's support? What about Lisa Murkowski or I don't even know who else.
Yeah, I know. Well, here's what I think. I think Republicans are going to be very reluctant to legitimize what the House did, because if you care about the presidency as an institution, what they did in the House is really a threat to the presidency. They started impeachment in the House Intel Committee. The president's lawyer was not present. It was hearsay upon hearsay, behind closed doors, selectively leaking information. The only actual fact witness exonerated the president. This is the first impeachment done by partisan politicians. Every other impeachment has been driven by outside counsel spending time and money looking in accusations that resulted in criminal liability. Bill Clinton actually committed a crime. Donald Trump's done nothing wrong. So I really think it's going to be difficult for Republicans to legitimize what the House did.
You know, I agree. You don't. All right, so let's assume
You there?
you're going to have House members, I guess, whoever their team is, they will present their case. And then what happens?
There?
Well, here's what's going to happen. This needs to be looked at as a Supreme Court argument. And our House colleagues on the Republican side, Jordan, Meadows, Gates, the whole list, Biggs, you name it, Radcliffe did a great job exposing this sham. But when we come to the Senate, we're going to have the Chief Justice of the United States sitting, presiding over the trial. And this needs to be presented to the Senate reasonably and rationally based on facts and law. And here's what I hope the president will do. I hope he will put a legal team together that can tear this case apart factually and legally. We're going to acquit the president. I think it will be bipartisan sooner rather than later, and the political consequences to this will be felt in
Okay,
the next
hang
election.
on.
Play this tape on election night. I'll make a prediction here. The impeachment of this president by Nancy Pelosi, Schiff, and Nadler will do as much to get Donald Trump reelected as that litany of accomplishments.
Senator, thank you for all you do, and looking forward. We'll watch this closely in the new year.
There you go. We're on that. And if Dwayne's out there, try and call back in. We'll see if we can get you back on. Let me see if I can shut this off while I'm at that. Yeah, it's been a very different deal on that whole enchilada going on that. Of here, Lindsey Graham going on about the whole enchilada. I think it does. I think it cements Donald Trump's reelection on this whole thing, and we're I don't understand in one standpoint the Democrats' plan or what they think they're accomplishing on this whole enchilada, but we could we could wind up with the whole thing on that. I think they're cementing Donald Trump's reelection in this whole thing. Lindsey Graham stated it. They're, why not? And one of the great things about this whole thing is we're looking at it, and it's coming on the whole thing. Are we doing that? And I don't know if we got that, or I don't know if our caller Dwayne's on the line. If he is, pipe in. But if not, we'll.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I finally did. I finally turned you up. Finally got you on the line of this thing and figured out which button to push on the whole enchilada to get you on that. No, we played Lindsey Graham, which is not one of my favorite senators, especially on foreign policy. We disagree 100%. But he said this basically, he was on Fox News with Sean Hannity, and he basically said this whole impeachment thing does more to cement Trump's reelection than all of his accomplishments. What do you think?
Well, I cannot agree more in this aspect. Here's what you have to look at. We were told, right 5 minutes after the swearing in of Donald Trump, we were told they were going to impeach him. He had already done something wrong. There was collusion with Russia. We had, $40 million investigation very exhaustive, extensive investigation by Robert Mueller. which exonerated the president and said that he didn't do anything actionable. So if you don't do anything actionable, that doesn't mean you're still guilty, okay? It means you're done. But in the Democrats' eyes, what they did is they spun it and said, well, just because we couldn't charge him with anything doesn't mean that it's not wrong. Well, it either is or it isn't. It's like being pregnant. You either are or you aren't. There's no in-between with this.
Right.
Okay? So he did not violate the law. And that is what matters here, folks. Did he or did he not violate the law? And if he did, specifically what statute did he violate? Please show me the law, because I don't believe in Nancy Pelosi's inventive law tactics. So fast forward, we go through the Mueller report, we go through the Schiff show, we go through the Nadler, sleepy Nadler, narcissistic Nadler. I mean, the guy's narcoleptic Nadler, I should say. I mean, this guy, he couldn't even stay awake. And now, yesterday they were all crowing, oh, we've impeached Donald Trump. No, you haven't. That function can only be performed and is the sole responsibility of, are you waiting?
Yes.
The United States Senate,
Yep.
not the House of Representatives. So, in fact, your wishful thinking, sewn together by very thin threads of want and maybe, did not deliver. And so now what is the great, politician Nancy Pelosi, that pillar of strategy, going to do? She's going to keep it on her desk because she knows it's frickin' DOA immediately. And what she doesn't want, Roy, is she's already seen the backlash, as you were saying, that Trump's numbers are growing. So what happens if she puts forth the papers over in the Senate, all right, and says, the House has voted to impeach, now it's up for the Senate to have the trial, and the trial completely exonerates him. And in fact, out of that trial comes indictments for someone else other than Donald Trump.
Yes.
What do you think is going to happen to his poll numbers at that?
Oh, it's going to skyrocket. That's why you can tell, like I said at the first of the show, you can tell they're reading the poll numbers. They know this is going south, and it's going south big time. It's backfiring even more than they thought. Now they're trying to figure out a way to get out of this whole mess that they have concocted themselves into. And now, because like you said, if Adam Phony Schiff, Bullshift, or however you want to go it, and Nefarious Nadler and all them guys, said Trump and AOC and all that, Bernie's coming out here to Moreno Valley out here tomorrow and stuff. And I mean, you got the big Democratic debate Saturday. They've all been talking about, Pocahontas and the whole crew, how dangerous Trump is. They got to get him out of office. The world's coming to an end every day. Well, if it was that such important, why didn't you just hand carry it as soon as you passed it from the Senate? Or I mean, from the House yesterday? Why didn't you can carry it right over across the street to the halls of the Senate and say, why don't you guys get on with this? Because they know this thing is backfiring. It's going much worse than they thought. Not only might they lose the House, this might be a bigger landslide than Reagan had in '84 if they keep it up.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting if we found out that actually Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler were on the Trump payroll?
That's a good point. They couldn't be doing him any more favors than they already have.
I mean, seriously, folks, I've looked at this, and I can't believe that people elect these representatives in good conscience. The people in those districts that elect Nadler and Schiff and Pelosi are brain dead. They seriously are, because, I mean, Nancy Pelosi can't form a cognitive sentence, let alone string, two thoughts together without either cue cards or somebody's hand up her rear end operating her mouth. She's clueless, okay? She's nothing but a puppet, and somebody's a puppet master with that woman. And we could go into that if you want, but nonetheless, I think looking forward at this, there's There's bad and there's worse for the Democrat Party. They opened the door thinking that this was going to be this massive repudiation of the 2016 election. They have done nothing with their time and effort other than attempt to repudiate the election. In the meanwhile, we have Donald Trump pulling the Trump train along almost single-handedly. and I know that we're lauding the president's efforts, but the fact of the matter is the guy has put forth maximum effort, and I'm going to tell it like it is. All right? He's the one that has kept our economy. We've got deals with China now, who got the USMCA together so that Canada and Mexico are not destroying the United States economy from a very bad NAFTA deal.
They had the press conference today where where the House passed it overwhelmingly, 350 to 48. There was only just a little bit more than 10%, only 10% of the whole House of Representatives opposed the new new trade agreement between Mexico and Canada that Trump negotiated and he ran his campaign on, and it was Clinton and the Bushes and all that fouled this whole thing up. He's fixing it. They're rubber stamping it almost unanimously at about a 90% clip. That means a heck of a lot of Democrats voted for this thing, and we got to get rid of this guy because he's such he's such an evil person.
Well, right, but see, it's also an election year, Roy, and they know that elections have consequences, and they're looking at some significant consequences from this election. So if, as we talked before, if, in my opinion, if all of this Russian collusion, voter, tampering was so egregious and so paramount that it was such a huge stain upon the history of the United States, why aren't they doing something to fix it? They have made no attempt to offer up any fixes for this attempted voter tampering, this fraudulent voting that is supposedly by Russia. Even though, Roy, we have direct evidence to the contrary, that it was Hillary Clinton who, in fact, and the DNC, who funded the Steele report that attempted to gaslight Trump and paint him in a bad light so they could say, aha, he's a bad guy, vote for me, and it backfired in spite of us. So we have evidence. If you took this to court, Roy, and sat it down before a jury of 12 people and said, here are the documents, here is the timeline, here is what happened, you guys go decide. I don't think you could find a jury in the United States, unless you were shopping in Nadler or Pelosi's district, that would not convict Hillary Clinton.
We got a little. I want to play this video. This is Trump daring. It's on the 5 on Fox News. Trump is going to dare Pelosi to send the articles of impeachment up to the Senate. So I'll see if I can make this play here, and we're going to rock and roll and see if it works. As I'm pushing the button, and it's not. The video is not moving. Okay, I'll see if I can rerun it. But no, he's sitting in the White House today. Trump hits it, and he almost hits it out of the park on this whole enchilada on this because he's saying, okay, Nancy, you back these guys, you put it up there, you're Speaker of the House. Now why don't you send it up? Why are you holding it now? She said she's going to hold it till after Congress reconvenes in the deal. So we'll see if this is going to play.
Remember when it was supposed to be quick? Now Nancy Pelosi is dragging her feet by waiting to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate. Pelosi melting down after being called out for it earlier.
Frankly, I don't care what the Republicans say. Not on this subject. I've said this is it. Any other questions on any of this? Anybody want to talk about Mexico Free Trade Agreement? Anybody care about that?
Yeah, you obviously did because you guys passed it 100%. I just wanted to throw that in. She's trying everything she can to deflect and get out of this whole deal. But let's get to Trump's comments.
just impeaches the
Okay.
president. Doesn't want to talk about it. Here's the president responding to impeachment.
They're playing games. They don't want to put in their articles, their ridiculous, phony, fraudulent articles. And I think they're not allowed to do that. Here it's unconstitutional and a lot of other things, but they don't want to put them in because they're ashamed of them.
And Republicans are mocking Pelosi.
And Speaker Pelosi suggested that House Democrats may be too afraid to even transmit their shoddy work product to the Senate. He said impeachment was so urgent that it could not even wait for due process, but now they're content to sit on their hands. This is really comical.
Now
I mean,
we have the
you know what?
There you go. Yes. Isn't that apropos on that? Isn't it really too comical that they're doing this?
Well, yeah, I mean, when McConnell can get a zinger, and you really
Yeah.
have-
Does that guy look like a mortician when he's? I mean, that just popped in when you said that. He looks like a freaking mortician when he's up there talking like that. Yeah. I mean, I could just see this guy, the first guy you walk in when you're walking into Grimes' funeral home or something. This is the type. I mean, he would be like the prototype. He has the voice, the manner, that stoic look, hardly moving and I just thought of that when you said that. I mean, when the mortician / leader of the Senate is throwing zingers at you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, and I am no fan of Mitch McConnell. I personally, it's not a personal dislike, but I just find him to be his lack of motivation and his lack of sense of urgency, and the old boy way of, well, you got to do the Potomac shuffle and give and take. No, we're so sick and tired of the status quo in this country, and I think that's why Trump resonated with so many people, because so many people were beyond tired of the status quo where nothing gets done, or over 20 years 2 or 3 meaningful pieces of legislation gets passed. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, everything's burning to the ground and nobody's paying attention. And I just think that, again, where is the Democrats' voice in this? Where is their fix for these problems? They point fingers. This is a bad man. We're going to impeach. You got, all of these radical Islamists who are now congresswomen and men in there who are, this guy needs to impeach. He's a stain on America. Okay, what's your solution? What's your big thing you want to bring to the table to fix unemployment? Oh, wait, he's already done that. Or to fix the problem with the NAFTA agreement. Oh, wait, he's already done that too. Or to straighten out some of these wacky judges. What's your big fix? Zero. It's chirping crickets over there when it comes to ideas.
Is that a reference to the Buddy Holly's band, the Chirping Cricket? No, that's just showing.
No, I like Buddy Holly. I would never insult the crickets that way. I just think these people are vacuous. They are angry. They don't have anything other than hatred guiding them. You know the old days when we actually had a George Mitchell who would sit down and talk with the Republicans and work on something? You had a Tip O'Neill who was as far left as you could get at the time, who actually sat down with Reagan and worked things out to get things through Congress. These people are nuts. They have zero tolerance for anybody else's point of view other than that which furthers their own, grip on power and furthering more power.
No, you point out something that I just thought of. It's kind of like a marriage or something, okay, you husband and wife, you have your disagreement. This was Tip O'Neill and Reagan. They had their disagreements, but at the end of the day, everything was cool. They worked it out, in that. But now, today, we're at the point where the husband and wife are, you blankety blank, you're no good, blank, blank, blank. You know, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do to you. The fight is on. It doesn't matter what. If you're looking at the color green, one says it's green, one says it's red. It doesn't matter what reality is in the situation. We're just looking for a fight. And that's exactly what this whole process of impeachment has been. It is not the process of, yeah, there is a danger. Something's, we have a rogue president in here. He's lost his marbles or something is why impeachment is in there. It is not a legal process. It's just the Congress and the Senate can remove a president for basically whatever reason. But that reason was if he's incapacitated, something's wrong. We got there's a big major going on. We need to get him out of there. Then that's it. No, this is, I don't like you. We are going to use any means possible to get you out of office, and we don't care what rules we violate, what laws, what type of tactics we have to do. We just don't like you. We want you out of office. We want you gone. That's how I see this whole situation. And that's how I see our politics today in 2020 versus the 80s, what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a vitriolic centered, lack of discussion, and it's designed to do a couple of things. It's designed to impede the president from being successful, because success breeds more success, which also breeds, winning another election, and the other thing they're doing is by constantly dragging him through the mud, they stymie Congress from being able to fix anything, because you got to have both sides, right? And so now that you have a Speaker Pelosi with her majority in the Democratic House against a Mitch McConnell, because that's how they look at it, okay? And the president has had Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi to the Oval Office half a dozen times, something like that. And what happens? Nancy storms out, oh, he was pounding on the desk. Nobody has ever corroborated that. Not one living soul. These people have no ideas. They are morally bankrupt. They are intellectually bankrupt. And because they have no ideas, no solutions to any problems, the only thing they can do is muddy the water and attack. I mean, you look at the vacuum of leadership that exists in the Democratic Party. When you see individuals like the bartender from New York having a presence in what formerly until recently was the hallowed halls of the United States Congress, which are now nothing more than another job opportunity, I just don't understand the lack of intellectual prowess amongst these people to vote for somebody else for speaker, number one, to guide. If they had any ideas, any real solutions, they would have brought them to the table. But it once again just demonstrates how bankrupt they are. And because it's not their team in place and they don't get to run everything, they're going to make sure that you don't get to run your ideas either. So the other part of this attack is an attempt to slow down any meaningful changes. And Trump has stymied them at almost every turn. I mean, he's made huge attempts to fix the Veterans Administration, and while it's not perfect, it's a damn sight better than it used to be. He's building the wall, much to the chagrin of these people that call him a racist because he's building a wall. No, we have every right. No, we have a duty in this country to protect the citizens that live within the borders of this country, and to do it to the best of our ability. It is the ultimate duty of the federal government to protect the citizens. And so that's merely all we're doing. We're building a wall up. Why, Roy? Because too many people want to come here because it's such a vile country to live in. It's so horrible. There's rioting in the streets. There's no food. There's no opportunity. That's why people are dying to get over here.
No, I wanted to say something. It is, and is it in the Constitution or the maybe the Declaration of Independence? It's to protect the United States citizens from enemies, foreign and domestic. We seem to have a lot of, starting with the FBI and this whole Comey deal. It seems like we're getting more enemies on our domestic side than we got to worry about on the foreign side.
Well, we talked about that last week, about the enemies from within. And I think you need to do this. You need to pick up the President Eisenhower's farewell address in 1960, where he warns of
the military-industrial complex. Yes,
I think you need to play it for people. I don't think enough people have heard this. And mind you, this was 59 years ago. Okay. 54 years ago.
No, you're right. 59. It was in 1960.
Right,
yeah, it was 60. Could have been 61. Yeah, that was his parting speech when he was turning the presidency over to John F. Kennedy. So yeah, it was either there in 60 or 61, I believe.
It was 1960, I think.
Right.
So he warned us of the industrial military complex, and I think it would be very, very good to play that for people so they could get some perspective and context on what you and I have been talking about. They're hitting this man from all fronts. So you've got all three branches of the government attempting to attack him. All right? Like Caesar, he is surrounded by enemies, for those of you that are Shakespeare people. And so we have an issue with the very security of the highest office in the land. And this guy goes out every day and, his discussion to Pelosi was basically, you know what, you want to impeach me? Bring it on. Come on, let's get this on. You bring what you've got to the table, and I'll bring what I've got to the table. And we know he's not short on guts. That's for damn sure. So I would like to see a hearing in the Senate. I would like to see the entire matter looked at. But I don't think it's going to be my prediction here that it never goes anywhere. Pelosi's going to table it because, number one, she knows it's DOA. And like you said, they've already looked at the polls, and they are screwed. They just basically gave this guy the election no matter who they run against. The best thing they could do is run a lame duck candidate against him, let him lose, and go to the next election.
Glad you caught that one.
So I think that would be the best thing they could do. I really do think so.
Yeah, I think they really are. I think they're 100%. I think they're afraid now to send it up to the House on this thing because they know they're 100% screwed on this whole deal.
Well, and what else is going to come out? What do you think might come out? Let's speculate a little bit. What do you think might come out of a full-blown investigative hearing in the Senate where now the Republicans have a chance to ask questions and cross-examine people without the guidance of Adam Schiff or Jerry Nadler, who wanted to make an attempt in front of the American people to control the outcome. They weren't interested in the truth. They were interested in the outcome. Their outcome was preordained 5 minutes after Donald Trump took office. And we know this. They've said it. Just like Joe Biden has stated his quid pro quo. And then they turn around and blamed it on Donald Trump. No, he's guilty of quid pro quo. Wait a second. We have glaring evidence an admission from a guilty party. I can say this because he is in fact guilty of quid pro quo because he has admitted it. So I'm not speculating on that at all. But what do you think might happen? What else may come to light in a trial of the Senate where the president gets to address, his accusers, where the president gets to offer up evidence? No, it's just going to make him look better, wouldn't it? So right now, the best thing they can do, the best damage control that they can perform, is to put up a lame duck candidate to lose and recharge for the next election. Go look at 2024 and just let this one go and go down the road. But they don't have the long view, because can you imagine the things that will happen if we get one or possibly two more Supreme Court justices with their heads screwed on properly and another 150 Federal Circuit Court judges who have their heads screwed on properly, and we put an end to these frivolous, dingy lawsuits like the Sandy Hook trial against Remington Arms, because the nutcase broke into a locked cabinet, stole something that was not his, and used it in the commission of a crime, and somehow it is the manufacturer of the rifle's fault that this occurred.
Here you go. I want to see if I can do this. I want to play the Trump. This is some of Trump's comments as impeachment was going on at the Michigan rally yesterday. We'll see if we can make this work.
Turn up the audio on it so I can hear it. I can barely hear it.
Showers, and what goes with a sink in a shower? 10 times, right? 10 times. Wow, Bob, not me, of course, not me. But you, him. But I never mentioned that, because one time I mentioned all three. I said, sinks, showers, and toilets. The headline was, Trump with the toilets. That's all they want. They don't even mention it. So I didn't mention that, okay? I go off the record. But you know what? It's terrible. You want to wash your hands, you turn on the sink, no water comes out. So you leave the water go 10 times as long. It's the same thing. You have a shower. It's no good for me. For me, the one thing that came out really good about being in this business, they always used to say I wore a hairpiece. It's okay. I know people wear hairpiece. But they always used to say, they don't say that anymore, because I have been through the worst storms. If you wear one of those suckers, you got to give it up fast, because within 2 weeks they got you. Dishwashers. We did the dishwasher, right? You press it. Remember the dishwasher? You'd press it, boom, there'd be like an explosion. 5 minutes later, you open it up, the steam pours out, the dishes. Now you press it 12 times. Women tell me, again, they give you 4 drops of water. And they're in places where there's so much water, they don't know what to do with it. We want a land of safety, justice. Well, I don't know. When I look at those FBI reports, we gotta clean up a lot. What they've done to hurt people,
yes.
What they've done to hurt with Comey and these horrible people, what they've done to hurt people. I think one of the best things I did as president, a lot of people would say, with all what we've done for the economy and everything, but one of the best things is firing James Comey's ass out of here. I don't know who the security company is, but the police came up, but they want to be so politically correct. So they don't grab her wrist lightly and get her out. They say, oh, would you please come? Would you please come with me? So, ma'am, would you? And then she gives the guy the finger, and oh. You got to get a little bit stronger than that, folks.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was pretty good on Trump's spot on that. Yeah, I mean, he hit the point. The dishwasher stuff really intrigued me because, that's kind of like what we've been talking about. The stupid regulations of where your dishwasher runs 4 hours when it used to run 30 minutes, and we're trying to fix that. But even more importantly, he said, and this is what I think, this is why Trump relates to the people. He said, we fired Comey. He said, I fired Comey's ass. And that it's that straight talk, and we have never... I don't remember any president ever, especially in my lifetime, that talked straight, just like normal people talk when they're talking about most subjects during the day or how they do that. He doesn't play the politically correct. He doesn't present it in the 37 years ago and the whole thing. He says it and he talks like regular people talk about these issues. And I think that's why Trump resonates.
I think certainly I must agree with a large majority of people. He may not be the most erudite, composed individual on the planet, but I believe when he's telling you something, the guy's telling you straight out what he believes. He's not making stuff up. You know, all these other politicians have speech writers, and not that Trump doesn't. I mean, they can't write everything. Reagan was a vociferous writer and wrote a good many way before he was ever president. This has come out to light, of course, after his being president. But I believe with Trump, you're absolutely correct. I believe what we have is a genuineness that we have not seen in some time since, I think, Reagan. I think to a certain extent, there were many other presidents that were, but in the postmodern era, which I'm going to call the TV generation. Okay, so from FDR on, which would be Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Nixon, Ford on, you know, we had a lot of presidents that just were, you know, Carter was one that I don't think could formulate a cognitive sentence on his own. He had some good speechwriters, though. He did that. And I think you're right. I think to a large degree, people see this guy as maybe they don't like him. Maybe they don't want to have him over for dinner, but they understand him, and he understands the common folk. You know, the guy's worked with construction workers his whole life, okay? He understands the average guy on the street, and that's where he resonates with. And, you know, kudos to him for telling it like it is. Aren't we really sick of the hand-wringing and the oh, you've got to be careful what language to use, and you can't say this, and we can't talk bad, you know. Yeah, I understand that, you know, civility's nice. But and that's what I alluded to before, where we had somebody like a Tip O'Neill, and we did have civility. But just as the JFK assassination pulled the glasses off of people's eyes and forever changed how we looked at it and how we looked at politics, so has the Democrats' vitriol permanently altered how we view politics now, and how, as a somewhat civil society, we move forward and say, you know what, I think there's a time to call it the way it is. And I think that's refreshing in a lot of ways, that we get to see a president who doesn't mind calling a spade for, you know, risking being called out on that term. You know, but that's just what it is. It's a euphemism, folks. It has nothing to do with race, by the way. It's a frickin' deck of playing cards, all right, or a shovel, okay? Get over it. But, you know, I do think that we're going to have one tumultuous year looking forward. You're going to have a hell of an easy road this year. I don't see how you can not be an uber success this year with all of the stuff. Can you just imagine
Yes.
what Pelosi's trying to do? I mean, like a cat covering up excrement in the box, they're trying to salvage something from this disaster that they created. And that's the real rub, isn't it? They created this disaster. The Republicans were all standing back going, wait, stop, don't go. You don't want to do this. You know, you might want to get your stuff together. You just might want to have some evidence. Because you and I both, I'm sure, look, if Donald Trump had done something egregious, if he had done something legitimately against the law or violated the Constitution, you and I both would say, well, he needs to be prosecuted.
Hey, a la Richard Nixon. I mean, the sentiment was, he didn't get, he didn't get to impeachment. He finally, he ran the course, and then he seen the writing was on the wall, and he resigned. But I mean, even at that point, most of the Republicans, and he was a Republican president, a majority of the Republicans were saying, "Hey, you got to go." And when you get to that, there's always that point, and there has never been that. And this is the danger of what they're doing. That was not a political process. There were technically violations of the campaign and stuff, and people were breaking laws, and people went to jail over breaking laws or breaking in and doing that. There was no question about that. I mean, G. Gordon Liddy and the plumbers and all that went to jail over that stuff. So there was no, well, maybe there was Russia this and that and papers and making up a bunch of stuff or nothing that was concrete proof. And consequently, there was a sense in the country that, yeah, Nixon had to go, so he finally resigned, avoided the process of that. And, we all went merrily on along our way. But this is playing politics with our government function, with the government function. Once you're elected, then you're on to the part of government. You do not use the tools of government to try and overturn elections, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They just don't like Trump. They could care less what the reason was. They could care less if his toenails they thought were 2 inch or two thousandths of an inch too long or something. They don't care how, what, or why. They just want him out, and that is exactly the danger in what's going on in this process. Kind of like I said, between the couples that when they were getting along or they'd have disagreements, they were working out. Now the husband and wife are just at each other's throats. It doesn't matter what goes on. If they look at each other, they're just mad. They want them gone, and that's how we have evolved. I've seen them since the '80s to now.
Right, and what you're looking at now is a party that does not care what is sacrificed as long as they obtain and maintain power. They have no objectivity. They have no ideas. They just want power. And so they don't care if they take the entire country down into the toilet as long as they're running it. They don't want success because you know what? Success breeds independence, and independence breeds freedom and liberty, which also cascades into critical thinking, which eliminates their nuttery. I mean, it has been political narcolepsy for so long, and to see somebody come along finally and kick these people in the pants and say, I don't really care what you think, Nancy. I'm going to run this my way. And if you have some ideas, bring them or shut the hell up. He's not, the thing about Trump is, you notice, no matter how bad these people are, he still lets them come to the White House. He still lets them take part in the USMCA as if it was all the Democrats that enlightened us with the new agreement. You wouldn't have it had Trump not put it out there and fought for it. Do you think Barack Obama would have ever signed a piece of legislation like that? Oh, hell no. They were too busy looting and raping the country for their own personal gain, a la Joe Biden. See, there's the thing that I think is going to come out in that Senate hearing. What if the Joe Biden thing ties in the Obama giveaways and the funny money giveaway to the Iranians and all of the perks that were handed out? Lois Lerner, who was used to weaponize the IRS against their enemies, who when questioned said, I'm not going to answer the question, and then promptly retired and was able to keep her pension. I don't think those people should have a pension. I think they should be under indictment and answering questions in a court of law. And if found guilty, they need to pay. If they are exonerated, then they need to be exonerated, and we need to say that. But you know what? I don't think that's going to happen. And you know, I'm looking at a picture. This is on Drudge Report. Congress heads home. There's a picture of Nancy and a bunch of Democrat congressmen. Yeah, because they're more worried about getting home for Christmas with their family and friends than they are governing the country. As if impeaching the president happens every day. Oh, well, you know, we'll worry about it later.
Exactly.
You know, don't you think it matters a little bit? Shouldn't it be shown the reverence it deserves? You're impeaching the president. You can't do. This is the highest calling of the government on that branch. There is no other thing you can do that is more important than impeaching a president. And did Donald Trump do something wrong? No. He wasn't convicted of a crime. They have yet to show me or anybody else what statutes this man has violated. They said that he obstructed justice because he told some of his employees at the White House, I don't want you to testify. And he wouldn't release documents. Well, they conveniently left out the fact that the Constitution gives the office of the presidency that very right to do so. If you have articles, bring them, let it go to the Senate, and that's where it's worked out. The Senate will then force the situation, but they can't control it. The other thing they wanted to get him on, so they've got obstruction of Congress, right? And then supposedly enriching himself by this supposed quid pro quo that no one has been able to directly corroborate. Not one person. The one person, that Ambassador Sondland, stated emphatically that what Trump told him was he wanted nothing in return for this, for the money that they were giving the Ukrainians. Nothing. He emphatically stated, I want no quid pro quo. So, Roy, when does I want no quid pro quo not trump, to use the vernacular, the statement that there was a quid pro quo? How do you get that out of that statement? He has emphatically denied it. The one person that was a direct observer of the conversation and had a direct conversation with the president stated so. The president of Ukraine stated so. The ambassador to Ukraine has stated so. The ambassadors to Ukraine staff has stated so. Nobody in the Ukraine has said that they felt pressured. They said the exact opposite. But that is not allowed to be offered up as any evidence. In fact, what has been happened with the Nadler Schiff show is the exact opposite. We prevent those viewpoints and that evidence from coming to light. They outright fabricate. They are professional prevaricators of the worst type. They had fabricated this entire show and told the American people, well, yes, he's guilty, and it's a sad day for the Congress. No, what's sad is that you don't have the intellectual fortitude to admit when you're wrong and to state so and say, well, we've looked at it, we've answered all the questions, we've given it a fair due diligence, and we just don't find any actionable. Yeah, maybe he said a couple things that weren't perfect, as he said, but you know what? What laws did he break, Roy? I'm still trying to figure out what laws did the man break.
Yeah, it is, and Rex writes in the comments that Nancy is the one who's obstructing Congress. She's the one that's willfully denying what the House of Representatives wanted. They voted yesterday of articles of impeachment. Send them up to the Senate and let them do that. Now, it brings an interesting question, because I've been hearing some of the reports on that. It kind of gets to Rex's point. There's many scholars, legal scholars that I've been listening to, said Mitch McConnell can take this up. They do not necessarily have to have the House send the articles up for impeachment up. McConnell and the Senate can bring it up, dismiss it. It's game over. We're done, and we're on. We roll on our merry way. So actually, I think, or from what I'm reading from some of the scholars in there, is now it is really out of Nancy Pelosi and the House of Representatives' hands. It's now a Mitch McConnell, the Senate of the United States, show on what's going to go. Once they've made that vote, they were done. She can withhold the articles of impeachment, but that does not preclude now, from what I'm hearing, or if I'm hearing it correctly, that the Senate can take this up, hold the trial, and deal with this issue now that they voted on it.
No, absolutely they can. What people seem to forget is that the Senate and the Congress are two independent bodies. And they function, while they do function in a surrogate, brother-sister situation, familial thing, they are, in fact, two separate bodies of legislation, or two separate legislative bodies. So they can act independently. They do not have to wait. Now, had they not had a vote, they would have nothing to go on. But you're correct. Once the article was sealed and the vote was taken, and the articles of impeachment were offered up, it doesn't matter what she does it. She can use it for toilet paper for all we care. That does not preclude the Senate from moving forward and having their own hearings based on the fact that they have had a vote in the Congress and they can move on. The House can now sit on their hands as they normally do, or they can, by special courier or carrier pigeon, send the paperwork over to the Senate. Doesn't matter how it gets there, or if it doesn't get there, and McConnell's looking at that, and I'm sure there are many legal scholars in the Senate that are going to write or advise Mitch McConnell on what he can do. But that has been reiterated by several legal scholars that I've seen, and there is the capability, certainly, of the Senate to do just that. And wouldn't that be a kick in the kneecaps for them if all of a sudden they had a vote and called their own witnesses and produced their own evidence and went on without their recommendations? Because that's all it is, Roy. It's a recommendation from the House that we have forwarded articles of impeachment. It is up to the Senate now to decide and have a trial. So, not offering up your evidence is kind of irrelevant at this point. You've already told Mitch McConnell, and you've already certified a vote. So now the Senate can move forward on its own, and whatever conclusions arise. So can you imagine? They really screwed up. What they should have done, they should have tabled it and either hoped to gain a majority in the Senate on the 2020 elections, or just table it and hold it over his head for a threat, which is best they could do. Now, cat's out of the bag. They have shot their wad. They've released all the hidden agenda. There's no going back. You can't put this back in the can. You can't have a redo, much as I'm sure they would like to. So they have to go forward. And wouldn't it be nice if after they came back from the Christmas recess, they had a vote on the floor and said, we're going to have a trial? I'd like to see a trial personally. I'd like to see it done correctly. I'd like to see both sides.
I do. We talked about it when Cliff was on. If I was a majority leader of the Senate, I'd roll them all. I'd bring everybody. You want testimony? You didn't want people. Everybody's going to test. We're going to grill we'll go 6 months on this deal. We'll have hearings every darn day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You want impeachment? You want to know the truth? You want witnesses? We're going to roll every stinking person up here, and let's get it all out on the table and see what really happened. And that's what I would do. I'd make them eat this stuff lock, stock, and barrel. We'd be talking about Hillary stuff and the whole thing, and Obama and the Bushes and everybody else that was complicit in all this crap. that was going on. Let's roll the whole sausage out there, and then let the American people decide when they've seen all the evidence, when they've seen all the stuff, and we'll see exactly what has went on, and then let's see how things shake out. That's what I would do.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's an absolute disaster for them if that goes down. If they do an actual bipartisan, and Chuck won't let this happen. Don't Chuck Schumer is nothing more than a male version of Nancy Pelosi. Another, spineless twit who's a fossil of the Senate who's been there for 31 years or whatever the hell he's been there, So he's going to do the best he can to try to derail that, but he doesn't control the Senate. Mitch McConnell and the Republican boys do, and if they do nothing else, I would love to see a trial. I would love to see all the facts come out, as you have just said. I'd be glued to the TV. I wouldn't get any work done because I'd be watching C-SPAN every day. I'd want to know what they're saying. Truly, hey, C-SPAN, hint, you want some good ratings for a change? Here's what you do. Call up your buddy Mitch on there and say, let's have a trial. It'd be great for ratings. This extends a lot farther. See, what they have gotten away with for decades, Roy, is doing the deed and then accusing someone else of the very deed they've done, and then prosecuting them or ruining their career or damaging their reputation. Well, now there's evidence to the contrary now, isn't it? So if we have a real Senate investigation and we find out that this giant spider web has tentacles that reach all the way out into some very uncomfortable places for the Democrats and Republicans too, because they're all complicit, I say let the chips fall where they may. I want to finally see the truth. Let's get it on. Let's finally get rid of the dead wood that's been leaching off of the governmental teat for so long, and the voter put some real people in. But you know what? We'd have to have voter reform, wouldn't we? You'd have to get rid of those electronic voting machines. Go back to paper ballots, count them by hand. Then you'd have some real statistical data to look at instead of foreign-owned electronic machines that can be altered from afar. I
don't know if that's such a necessarily good idea, because we went back to paper ballots in California, and we went deeper off the left end than that. So I don't know if that's 100% the deal. But I get what you're saying is the whole enchilada. No, we do have problems with our election process and our whole the way we're going about this. I mean, we're and I don't know, I can't even remember what it was, but Javier Becerra, the Attorney General of California, I think it was over he was claiming that because I don't know which district court it was, but they basically struck down the individual mandate of Obamacare, and he was basically, I think he was trying to file another lawsuit or claiming that the whole world was coming to the end. People are going to die by the hundreds. It's going to be worse than the plague, all combined world wars and everything else. It's going to be the destruction of society because of that. And as Trump pointed out, we're finally peeling that onion back again, as it was. It was deemed unconstitutional. Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, George W. Bush appointee, for all of yous on the center to the right, was the one that I think illegally, and I don't know why the Supreme Court allowed this, he was the one that switched it from, you cannot mandate them as a fee, but we'll just change it to a tax. And then it went through. The district court has just ruled that was unconstitutional. Now that needs... Well, I don't know. With Roberts on there, I'm not so sure that it needs to go to the Supreme Court because they might overturn it. But if we can get another in the next term, if Trump can appoint one more Supreme Court justice from the Fab Four on the other side, let's say. I think that comes up like right now, and that will be reversed, and a lot of things, Second Amendment issues, everything else. A lot of these things will be dealt with, but I still think we're one wavering short of a decision. The Boise case is one. Why didn't that go? Because there probably wasn't 5 votes to overturn the Ninth Circus's disastrous ruling on that. But it's better to let the damage just stay in the 9 western states than spread it all across America. So that's one reason, and I think it's one of the important reasons of the things that went on, and for no other reason, if Trump gets another term on there, and especially if the pendulum, not necessarily Republican, heck, I could see some independents I don't care. I don't care if they are good thinking, if they are principled Democrats. I don't care what party or what affiliation they are. Let's just get down to doing what's right. That's what I want to know. When I'm not watching you, that you're doing the right thing. I could care less what color, what shade of brown your skin tone is, what political party you belong to, whatever. Can you discern the facts from the BS, cut through that, and do what's right for for me, if you're my representative, or I hope for your representative and all that. So when the sausage comes done out that, we get results that's going to work for everybody, not against the majority and to benefit a few.
Yeah, and we've far too long seen the systematic decay from our educational institutions to the halls of government. We have got to get a handle on this. I mean, why is the government the size that it is? My prescription for fixing that, because you can't fire anybody anymore, is simply to put a hiring freeze on the federal government, and through attrition, as people retire, you simply shrink it over the next 7 to 10 years. And you just allow it through attrition to shrink. And then, therefore, a follow-on budget reduction would be necessitated, because as staff declines, you don't necessarily need the budget anymore. So there you go. We've got to get a handle on this budget. We have got to quit selling the next 4 generations down the road to pay for play that, this nation's been doing. We've got to stop it. And Trump's tried. He's getting us out of these foreign entanglements that Jefferson warned us about, all the nation-building garbage. And, they were all for that when it was Obama's idea. And then when Trump gets in and says, yeah, we're going to get out of here, no, so we can't do that. That would destabilize the region. Really? It's not destabilized now. That's going to destabilize it more. Well, you know what? I'm tired of caring about these people that live in caves, that have been living in caves since the 7th century and are not going to change. They do not like Western culture. They are not going to change. They're going to herd goats, beat their multiple wives, and they're going to live in caves. This is what they like. This is what they want. So you know what? More power to them. I don't want to live in a cave.
Right, it's their country. We are not responsible for what they are doing over there. I mean, no matter what, we might disagree with it, might not like it. They have the same perspective of us. Why are you over here on our ground telling us what to do? If they were doing that to us, we would be the first ones that would be up in arms, but we think we have the right to go over there and tell them what to do on there. I mean, I push it down to your home. Does somebody else have the right to come into your home and say, hey, get me a beer, cook me some steaks, change the TV channel? No, that's your property. But for whatever reason, if you decide somebody is no longer allowed to stay on your property, you have every right to tell them to go. That's the beauty of private property rights, is you have control over it. And as soon as you don't, then you are no longer a free person. And like you said, the whole thing, it drives me absolutely crazy that we're up to $22 trillion in debt, in the national debt in the United States, and climbing, and not nobody, but it seems like every year, every increasingly percentage of people just have no concern about that. I mean, it's like it never is. When that bill comes due and you run out or nobody's buying the debt anymore, then it's going to crash. And that scene is not going to be pretty by any stretch of the imagination. So that's why these things are important.
Yes. And our, just 2 generations ago, the people lived through a depression. And, my grandfather warned me about that. And he says, you don't ever want to see this. And he was right. You look at what Venezuela's going through. Do you want that?
There you go.
That's where you're headed if you keep spending money. That's what they did. They kept spending money, and with the flippant attitude that the money tree will always produce, we'll just keep kicking the can down the road. Do you remember? And it isn't really that long ago in some perspective. Do you remember when we crossed $1 trillion in national debt? I believe that was during the Bush era.
No, 1980. That was one of the issues Reagan ran on. Is that during the Carter administration in his last year is when we crossed the threshold of $1 trillion in debt. That's when we clicked over another zero. We went from $999,999,999 billion to $1 trillion. And here we are 39 years later, and we are 22 times more than that and hemorrhaging more each and every year. At some point, the game becomes over, on that. And again, it's just expanding. And now this is the big danger. Our gross domestic product is only $20 trillion. So now our national debt is bigger than our gross domestic product. And that, in many, many, many very good scholars or economists are saying, when your debt is over what your gross domestic product is, that's no longer when you are a free society. That's now the government is actually more responsible, or you're on the path to bankruptcy because now you owe more than you can produce. And that is like in the studies they've done when societies go bankrupt or collapse or whatever, you can tune to that point of when that, when you're on top of the bell curve and then you're starting on the downhill slide. And we went through that about 2 or 3 or 4 years, probably, I think, just before Trump came in the last year of the Obama administration, I think in 15 or 16, is when that pendulum clicked in. So, but again, there's going to be a debate here in, I think, a Democratic debate on Saturday. I bet you that topic doesn't come up once. I bet you they don't even hint at it. It's like the big elephant. No, I'm not. There's an interesting sidebar to that, or down there in Venice or wherever they're having it down there. You know what they're doing?
Yeah. I have no idea.
They're out there cleaning all the one of the biggest liberal bastions. Oh, we got to take care of the homeless. You know what they're doing? They're sweeping the streets clean of the homeless because Bernie and Pocahontas and the crew are coming in. Now, why do you suppose this was such a great idea? Why aren't you bus loading more of them in so they can really see what it looks like? Why, when the Democratic presidential, who are supposed to be all for this, why are you sweeping? Why all of a sudden in this last couple of weeks you've been sweeping the streets of all these tent cities and vagrants and bums that have been parking in your areas?
Well, because it's do as I say, not as I do. Because they want to make the appearance when all the cameras show up that it's really not what it is. And you and I both know it's very vastly different than what the media would like to hide. And that's what they're doing. They're attempting to hide what's really going on, which is their failed policies of everybody gets a free lunch, everybody gets a cell phone, everybody gets taken care of, and somebody else is going to pay for it. Well, as you're already talking about, when our debt is larger than our GDP, there's nobody left to pay for it, folks. Guess what? That means the faucet is going to get turned off. And when it does, people will get ugly. It will, there's far, far too many firearms in this country for them to just go, oh, well, we're going to round you all up, put you in a jail. No, I don't think that's going to go over very well.
Yeah, it is. And I just want to catch this. Bill writes in, he says, yeah, what they need to know and remember is, and he capitalizes this, we the people is who they work for. And Debbie stamps that yes. And that's what they...
For Bill.
Yes.
Absolutely, Bill. I am in 100% agreement. And don't you think, as a follow-on to this, Bill, don't you think that we're basically doing just that by hiring Donald Trump to continue running our country? And you know what? More of us. You should go down to the Bernie show, and you should ask some serious questions, and then run around. Go out there with your man on the street camera and your microphone and ask some questions, and show these people the failed policies that they are attempting to further. The one question I want to ask all of them: you claim to have this utopian answer that's going to fix all the problems. Can you show me one place where this exists? No, you can't. So it's been tried in several countries over several centuries, and it's never worked. But, you got the secret sauce today. You've got the right. See, you've learned from history, and you're going to do it different. You've got the special sauce. I'm not buying it. It never works. Everywhere it's tried, it fails because it can't stand on its own merits. Socialism, communism always collapses regardless of what you do. You simply can only tax or take 100% of what there is, and once you take it, it's all gone, because people aren't going to keep producing if you take away everything. They're going to sit with their hand out because you promised them all, we're going to take care of you. Don't you want to be taken care of? Isn't it fun? You don't have to work. You don't have to get up. You don't have to produce anything. We'll take care of you. It's not your fault that you're clueless on what to do for your own self-reliance. It's not your fault that you just don't have any ambition. We'll handle that for you. And we'll take it from these evil people over here that have ambition and drive and are successful because they have too much. And you're owed. You deserve. This is the lying, hypocritical BS that they try to promote everywhere this is tried. It's the cornerstone. It's the tenets of communism and socialism. And it never works. Venezuela, anyone? Cuba, the former USSR collapsed. The largest communist dictatorship there ever was collapsed under its own weight. So where is this utopian society that Bernie and the Klan thinks is working so well? We're going to make it here, right? We're going to do it all here because, again, we've got the secret sauce.
There you go. I just want to give it. Bill writes in. He gives us a big woohoo on the system.
Awesome, Bill.
Yeah.
Yes, I think. I think you really should go down there and talk to these numbskulls.
No, I'm going to try and go over. No, Bernie's going to be here at 1 o'clock, and I'm going to try and get it. It's a very small room. I'm going to try, but I'm going to try to get here because he's going to be here, and good old Moval do that. I think he's going to go to Palm Springs, and then he's coming out here, and then I think he's going to San Diego because I think the the so-called Democratic debate, which is not really a debate, it's just a press conference and sideshow. But I think that's going Saturday down there in Venice or whatever it is on that deal. So, they're all coming out here trying to, rally up the troops in good old deep blue California. But, I hope this, I hope most of the people start on this or look at it and start getting to the point of, yeah, we're going to start really looking at this stuff, and I even sense it, even some of the breaks in California, I'm sensing some of the people in there are getting frustrated for that. I just, and I heard that I got an update on another show of that. The lady that was down there, I think it was in Hollywood, that the vagrant who dumped the bucket load of poo all over her and that, and a couple of months ago, and she gave an update on that of where where we're going with that, and these incidents just keep coming up. I mean, can you imagine, some and I don't almost use the term that I probably shouldn't, but if some clown, who's whacked out on drugs or whatever, and that vagrant sitting in the streets, whatever's been, pooping in the bucket in his tent over there and just decides he's going to dump it all over you like she did. And she said, she told the embarrassing story of that, she had to, the firefighters got there and she had, they kind of took some blankets or something around her, and she had to take off all her clothes, and they kind of hosed her off and, cleaned her up because, she was just totally covered in that stuff. But, she said the embarrassment of that, the absolute terror of what was going on in that whole, and so she said first she thought somebody would, because when it hit her, she said it was very hot or, warm. She thought she was getting hit with an acid attack or something, somebody was dumping acid on her or something, and she was going to die right there in the, in the deal. So, I mean, this is the stuff that's happening every day in our streets on that, from these nutcase policies that we've been allowing for far too long. Like a producer, which he's not here, but Jesse said, 10 years ago, I don't remember homeless people or bums or so around. I just, all of a sudden it's just like, boom, man, they're here. They're everywhere. They're, they're getting, they're causing all these problems. It's like, but that's the danger in letting things get to this point instead of stopping them at the point of attack or before they proliferate and get to a big crisis. That's what our representatives are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be preventing this kind of stuff.
Well, okay, and I agree. So here's my thoughts on this. And I'm going to preface this by saying that Roy no way endorses my actions or my comments. Now that I got that out of the way, if anybody were to attempt to do that to me, they would find themselves in one serious world of hurt, and they would wish to God that had never occurred. And every single walking human being out there needs to start taking care of themselves. And if somebody accosts you, assaults you, or gets, pushes you down, you get up and you beat the living crap out of them, or at least go down try it.
Well, yes, I mean, you have every to pick up on your point. You have every, if you're being physically attacked, which that is, if you are being physically attacked, it's my understanding under the law and just the general law of nature, you have the right to defend yourself from anybody attacking you, and that is, and that's exactly what that was. I mean, I can understand, and it's kind of, to segue into another issue of this. This is why it's important to have something. I understand everybody's not comfortable with firearms or anything, but you should have some. If you're a woman, you should have pepper spray, something if you get hit by an attack of that or something, or somebody, maybe not in that situation, but this stuff is happening far too long. I did the example of yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but of the, there's the tale of two delivery truck drivers. There's the poor guy in a couple of weeks ago in Florida where some bank robbers hijacked his truck, wound up shooting and killing him, and that. Well, yesterday or the day before in Philadelphia, he's a FedEx driver was cruising through the neighborhood delivering packages like he does, and goes on thousands and millions, and especially at this time of year before Christmas, they're probably, the truck's stacked full. They got packages on the roof and everything else because it's a Christmas season.
They're working their butts off.
Yes, and all of a sudden, this clown decides he's going to rob or shoots the FedEx driver in the stomach. Well, I don't know what he had, 9mm 45 or whatever. But fortunately, in this case, the FedEx driver had a firearm in his possession. So he went and plugged about 4 or 5 rounds in the perpetrator. Well, when the cops got there, fortunately, they just hit him in the stomach. He's in stable condition. Looks like, barring any, some sort of that complications, he will survive, and they'll put him back together. Looks like is, good or better than new. But the cops found the perpetrator about 2 blocks away with 4 or 5 gunshot wounds in him, deader than a doornail. So,
well, and that's the way it ought to be.
Yes.
Quit rolling. My point is, quit rolling over.
Yes.
I see these damn pink hat wearing Antifa crowd getting in people's face. You know what? Stop putting up with it. Grab a bottle, a rock, a stick.
Yes.
I don't give a damn. You hit them, and you keep hitting them until they quit getting in people's face. And guess what? Just like all bullies, they'll go away and stop doing that. And here's the thing. This clown that dumped a bucket of feces on this woman, what kind of diseases were in that?
Oh, she has to go through testing now every couple of months for the next year to make sure she's not, she doesn't get any, disease or any, something.
By the way, who's going to pay for that? By the way, that wouldn't have been necessary if, somebody would have said, "Hey, dude, stop. You know what? Unload on the guy. Hey, look, we don't know what's in the bucket, but you're assaulting somebody. You don't have that right. Put him down." Guess what? Pretty soon, one bum talks to bum 2, talks to bum 3. Hey, guess we shouldn't be dumping our buckets on people anymore. And then it stops. It's the same way with getting them to move. You know how you get them to move? You get a bunch of water trucks out with nozzles, and you drive down the street, and you high pressure hose the area off. Because, hey, you got to clean the area, right?
Yes. I love that idea. Yes.
Just hose them dudes down, and they'll go on to the next place that doesn't hose. Well, you let the hoses follow them, and you keep following them until they get out of your area. Stop putting up with it. Stop. We've got to look at ways to do this and that, and we've got to be nice. No, you don't. No, you don't. Nice stops when somebody else connects. And that is them connecting. When they squat on the street and take a dump in front of your kid, and everybody walks by and accepts this as normal behavior, you just condoned it. You own it. So stop doing that. You see somebody doing that, walk up behind him and kick him in the butt and say, "Hey, stop that. Go down and use a toilet, you dumbass." Don't sit there and just put your hands in your pockets and turn around and walk out. Start taking some stock in your own neighborhood. Quit asking your stupid, lazy politicians to fix the problem that they created. They're not going to. You know how you do it? It's like the folks up in Oakland. What did they do? Chop a bunch of trees.
Yes, they put the logs on the, yes. Exactly, yes.
There you go.
Yeah, they said, okay, you're not going to, and that's what I'm saying is even in, there's probably no bastion of liberalism more bigger than in California than Oakland. Well, they got to be in the top 5 there somewhere, up in that area. And the people up there are getting frustrated enough with it that they're saying, we've had enough of this crap. We're not going to take it anymore.
And say, hey, stop that. Go down and use a toilet. You just
got to be in the top 5 there somewhere, up in that area.
See if I can.
And the people
see
up
if I
there
can
are
shut
getting,
myself. There we go.
Yeah, well, when
Sure,
you're
what's
doing everything, sometimes you hit the wrong button on the deal. But no, it's absolutely crazy of what what's going on in this whole deal. Yeah, you need to take care of this stuff. And and again, that's the danger in this is you keep pushing people's buttons on all this stuff, and then you are going to have a full blown anarchy going on, and then that situation gets really ugly.
Well, yeah, because it goes from you kicking a guy in the butt and resetting
Yes.
his button to all of a sudden enough people have had enough and they're marching down to the encampment with kerosene lanterns and baseball bats. And now there's no stopping that because cops, when seconds count, are minutes away.
Yes.
I want you to let that sink in, folks. You are sitting on a powder keg down there in California, and if you all don't start getting your stuff together and growing a spine, it's going to explode in ways you don't want to. And when the fecal matter hits the oscillating device, you're going to find that the cops are not going to be there. And here's a good one. Do you remember the L.A. riots after Rodney King?
Oh, yeah.
We remember how inconsequential the LAPD was and how ill-equipped
Yes.
they were.
Oh, you remember
situation.
down in Chinatown or whatever, the Chinese business owners were all standing on top of their buildings with shotguns, rifles, and you know what? Their businesses, for some reason, didn't get broken into, looted, or anything else.
What a concept.
Yes. I mean, but all the ones that are saying, "Oh, we played the video up in Richmond or something," and I think Laura wrote in on IEN or posted the story on it of that up in Richmond when Sears are closing, going bankrupt, or a lot of them or whatever, reorganizing or however that's working. Well, they're closing the store up in Richmond or something. So half a dozen people just start doing what was some term as ghetto shopping. They just start grabbing stuff up and running out the freaking door. Well, and that when did our society come to? Oh, well, you just can't do anything about that. Just let them go and da 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 da. Well, you just if you take that attitude, it just keeps proliferating and doing that. And you make businesses afraid to defend their own their own property, which are not really businesses. Really, businesses are people. So somewhere somebody somewhere owns it. So there really are they're really saying, well, justify somebody coming in taking your property and you can't do anything about it. Well, again, like I say, the Chinese businesses that were on there of that were all the a whole row of them or so down there when the Rodney King riots and everything blew like a powder keg on that. And there was looting and rioting and all the stuff on that. Again, when they were standing up on top of the roofs of their businesses with shotguns and 30-06s, the criminals decided, we're going to drive by this at about 100 miles an hour and we're going to stay the heck away from here.
Well, it all came down to this. Two things. When we quit playing dodgeball and when we allowed the damn ACLU to start suing people for defending their property and their rights.
Yes.
And the fact that you've got liberal judges that will even allow a suit to be brought against someone that is in the commission of self-defense is appalling. So you did it to yourselves, and you're continuing to do it to yourselves. So now what's going to happen is the backlash that's coming, the pendulum's got to swing the other way. And my prediction is the ACLU is going to find themselves pounding sand because they won't have enough attorneys to sue everybody. The LAPD is not equipped. The Moreno Valley Police Department is not equipped.
No.
The Riverside Police Department is not equipped for rioting on any scale, okay? They may tell you they've got a plan and a process, but I'm going to tell you what has to happen, and we've seen this before. They call the government. The government calls the governor. The governor calls the state patrol out. The state patrol sends guys down there. Meanwhile, places are burning and people are dying. And by the time somebody declares a state of emergency and gets the National Guard with their automatic weapons to come down and quell the threat, there's been billions of dollars of property damage and hundreds of millions of dollars of theft. And now somebody's got to fix it all. And they point to every tax-paying citizen that lives in Texas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Maine, New York, Colorado, Idaho to pay for it. I am tired of paying for people's problems like that. I think what should have happened, you want to burn your neighborhood down? Fine, we're not rebuilding it. You want to rebuild it? You go ahead. We'll issue a building permit tomorrow if you'd like to fix your own stuff. Contact your insurance company. But why is it that they did absolutely nothing? Because a group of people decided, just like now, that they didn't like the outcome of a trial. And so, rather than appeal the decision, they became like animals and started tearing their own dwellings apart and their neighborhood stores, people that were their neighbors, the people that furnished them with their, formula and milk at 3 a.m. so their kids could quit crying. They went in and kicked the living crap out of their stores, took their stuff, and look at me, I'm ghetto shopping. Right. Well, you know what? That stuff's got to stop. And like you so aptly put, it was actually Koreatown that did that.
Koreatown, yes. They knew it was, yes, you're right. You are correct on that.
And the reason I know is because yours truly was down there retrieving stuffed vehicles for his employer at the time. And yes, folks, I was armed, and armed to the teeth. So I can tell you, having seen firsthand knowledge of that little debacle, that it was not friendly. But I did not feel in any way, shape, or form afraid of anything because I had my equalizers with me. And I felt that if somebody wanted to be stupid and impede my forward progress, they were going to meet an immediate resistance to the maximum extent possible on my part. So, you can either decide to grow up and take responsibility for your own cities and dwellings, or you can sit there and wring your hands and wish and hope and pray that your government that created the problem will fix it. So I am really going to be interested to hear your report on Bernie's campaign run.
Yeah, I hope I hope I can make it in there and get my way into there and see what that, and hopefully we'll be able to tape it and see what, and maybe I can even get a question or two and good old BS Bernie on the.
Yes. Ask him how he's going to pay for any of the contrived BS strategies that he's putting forward.
Right.
Pick one, don't care.
Right.
Just ask him how he's going to pay for it.
Right. You're right. What's your plan? Tax the rich. Take all the wealth 100% from the rich, and you can fund your little your proposed programs for about 3.5 days.
Yeah, and when the rich decide
right.
to take what's left that you didn't confiscate and leave the country and quit producing, who are you going to get it from then?
There you go. I mean, the whole right. The day I see BS Bernie and Pocahontas living on $50,000 a year, then we'll start talking about how great socialism is.
Yeah, you notice he's got more than one multi-million-dollar home, don't you?
Yes, same thing. Yeah, that's what I say. Why do you need that much money? I mean, why are you flying around on jets and everything else and going collecting all these millions? Why do you need $20 million to run a presidential campaign, Bernie? Or 50 million or whatever you. Why are you raising? Why aren't you doing this on like 50 grand?
Yeah, if your ideas are so
yes.
popular and so worthwhile, then they should stand on their own merit.
Yeah, well, why don't you practice what you preach?
Yeah.
I mean, why aren't you living in a 300 square foot apartment taking public transportation everywhere. Don't own a car. I want no air conditioning because it conjures greenhouse gases and all that other stuff. Because especially if you're in Washington D.C., that electricity that's running the heating and air conditioning and powering your computers and doing all that and charging your little electric cars or whatever your little fantasy is, probably coming from coal burning electric plants. So,
or the evil of all evils,
yes.
Nuclear power.
Which produces absolutely how much percentage of greenhouse gases?
Well,
0.
It produces greenhouse gas, but it does have some nasty, chemicals.
Well, no, not really, because the technology which we sold to practically every other country that's using nuclear power, the amount of waste that's generated by nuclear power, you can sweep up in a year out of a nuclear plant in a dustpan. That's how clean they are in today's technology.
Well, yeah, but that also requires a new developed technology, which means you got to build a different type of nuclear power plants, which, again, hey, if you can control the waste and manage it properly, I'm all for it, okay? I'm all for anything that keeps the train running.
Yes.
This BS that you want me to drive around in an electric car. Hey, look, man, if you want an electric car, go for it. I got no problem with you driving an electric car. It ain't my deal, all right? I want to drive what I want to drive. We're in America, damn it, and we should all be allowed to drive whatever the hell we want. If I want to go drive a 1982 Peterbilt 379 as my daily driver, I ought to be able to do it. And it's none of your damn business. If I pay the taxes on it, buy the tires and the fuel and the oil and the maintenance, that's on me, not on you. It has nothing to do with you. And this, you're allowed to have excess as long as you're a Hollywood star or somebody high up in the Democratic Party. But everyone else is expected to live on an abysmal amount of energy and, turn their computer on 10 minutes a day, if that, or possibly down to a week, and conserve all matter of energy and food. We should all be vegans and not eat the poor little cows. Well, screw that. I'm an American, damn it, and I'm going to eat what I want when I want. And it's up to me to figure it out. And if you don't like it, tough. That's just the way it's going to be. And more people need to do the same.
I couldn't agree with more of that. We've almost went on about 2 hours on this today, so
we're gonna call it a day.
Yeah, I think we're probably gonna give people a rest. If you would have done this on let's just say you were Rush Limbaugh or a Sean Hannity, this would be almost 4 hours worth of broadcasting time, because if you go look at their podcasts, most of them are about 33, 34 minutes in an hour. So from what we've been on would be about 4 hours on a normal AM station if you were looking at that, if you're doing 2 hours straight, because they're basically almost just doing barely over a half hour each, by the time the news breaks and all the commercials and everything else are filtered out, you're doing that. So, when you're doing it straight through like this in one shot in 2 hours, like you say, that's almost in the normal radio sphere would be about 4 hours of broadcasting time. So that's a lot of things we got out today on that before that, but it was enjoyable. Thanks for being on, kicking all these subjects around. We could probably talk another 3 hours on this stuff. But we would probably have people committing suicide if we kept it up. So we're going to call it today. Thanks for being on today on that, and we'll do it again real soon.
All right, take care.
You got it. That's it. We're going to call it a day for today. We're going to come back hopefully on Fantastic Friday. Hopefully Stephanie will be in. We'll kick it around doing some more of that. Maybe we'll get you set up for the last push for those of you who are late on the Christmas shopping and all that stuff of what's going on tomorrow. We're to get that done because, it's going to be less than a week away. Is going to be Christmas time on that next Wednesday. So, get ready for that. I know a lot of people are anticipating that. Some are dreading it a little bit, especially if you haven't got your Christmas shopping or all that stuff done or all that stuff. But we'll kick it all around tomorrow on that. And again, we have some really exciting news coming up for the show starting in 2020 that we'll be rolling out real soon. For stay tuned for that. So, as we usually say on this, see ya.